The wind crawled across the open plains that morning, carrying the scent of dust, cedar, and trouble. In the town of Red Creek, trouble always had a way of finding the people who didn't ask for it. And on that day, the person trouble chose was a young woman named Maren Hayes. She wasn't reckless, not by nature, but she had a curiosity strong enough to bend iron, and a stubborn streak that could make a preacher curse. She had arrived in Red Creek 2 months earlier, escaping the gray weight of the city and hoping to start a quieter life. She took a small job at the feed store and rented a room above the old saloon. Most folks barely noticed her, but one man did, a rancher named Eli Tanner. Tall, weather-worn, and quiet as dusk, he had lived all his 40 years on Tanner Ridge, running cattle and minding his own business. He rarely spoke more than necessary, but he watched everything, especially the things that didn't belong, and Maren, so no one said it out loud, did not belong. She first met him on a supply run. She had been stacking sacks of grain when someone's shadow swallowed the sunlight beside her. She looked up and found Eli standing there, hat low on his brow, boots coated in dry clay. "You're new," he had said. "And you're observant," she replied, brushing dust from her hands. He had stared at her for a long moment before giving a single, slow nod. "Stay clear of the South Ridge." She blinked. "Why?" "Just stay clear." Then he walked away, as if he had already said too much. Most folks would have ignored the warning, chalking it up to rancher talk or superstition. But Eli Tanner wasn't a man who wasted words, and something in his eyes that day made Maren's heart twinge with curiosity. She didn't ask around, that would only stir gossip, but the words stayed with her. Stay clear of the South Ridge. Weeks passed before she heard anything more. Red Creek, like all small towns, had its secrets. People whispered in half-finished sentences. They avoided night rides. They locked doors before the moon rose. Maren didn't understand any of it, but she observed, and she waited. Then one Friday evening, just as the sky shifted to dusk, she overheard 2 ranch hands talking outside the saloon. "You hear it last night?" One whispered. The ridge was howling again. The other spat into the dirt. If the sheriff had any sense, he'd send men up there. Men. To Tanner Ridge. "You try it?" Maren stopped walking. All the sounds around her, the clink of glasses, the scuff of boots, the rattling piano inside, seemed to hush. That was when she decided she needed to see what lay beyond the South Ridge. The next morning, she bought a lantern, a canteen, and a coil of rope. She told no one where she was going. She saddled a borrowed mare, tightened the straps, and headed out while the town still slept. The plains glistened gold as she rode. Dew shimmering on the grass like a field of tiny stars. Birds flitted overhead. The world was quiet enough that she could hear the steady rhythm of the mare's breathing. The ridge loomed ahead, a dark spine rising from the land. As she approached, she spotted something unusual. Tracks, but not animal tracks, nor wagon tires. These were deep, uneven, dragged impressions, as if something heavy had been pulled or had crawled rather than walked. Cold rippled through her, but she didn't stop when she reached the base of the ridge. She found a barbed wire fence, fresh, too fresh for an abandoned area. A warning sign hung crooked on it. KEEP out. Private land. She swallowed. Asterisk, I just want to look. Key, she whispered. Asterisk, she pushed down the top wire with a stick, stepped through, and the metal snapped behind her. Asterisk, she followed a narrow trail upward until she reached a cluster of old mining shacks, rotted wood, broken windows, collapsed roofs. They had been abandoned for decades. She stepped inside the largest shack, pushing the door, which creaked with a long, tired sigh. Asterisk, inside, dust swirled through beams of sunlight. Rusted mine tools lay scattered. A wooden table stood in the center, covered in old maps and ledgers. She picked up one map and frowned. It was Tanner Ridge, but not as she had seen it. There were carvings, tunnels, and something circled in thick black ink. A pit. Suddenly, a floorboard snapped behind her. She spun. Eli Tanner stood in the doorway, eyes burning like storm clouds. Asterisk, what did I tell you? He said quietly. She opened her mouth, but no words came. I told you not to come here. I just wanted to know why, she stammered. He stepped closer, anger framing every sharp line of his face. You don't understand what you've walked into, then explain it to me? No. His voice dropped, tremoring with something close to fear. We need to leave, now. But as he reached for her arm, a low rumble rose beneath them, like something shifting deep underground. She froze. What was that? Asterisk. Eli's jaw clenched. The reason I told you to stay away. Asterisk. Before either could move, the ground outside split with a crack that shook the shack. Birds scattered into the sky. Dust billowed up in a great, choking cloud. Eli grabbed her hand and dragged her behind a fallen beam as the earth caved inward. Asterisk. When the shaking stopped, they scrambled outside. Asterisk. Where there had been level ground moments before, there was now a gaping hole, and a sound rising from it. A moan, long, low, inhuman. Asterisk. Marin's breath hitched. What is down there? Asterisk. Eli didn't answer. Instead, he knelt and inspected the broken earth. His shoulders sagged. It's awake, he whispered. She stared at him. What's awake? Asterisk. He stood up slowly. Come with me. Asterisk. They walked to a large shed farther up the ridge. Eli unlocked it with trembling hands. Inside, dozens of crates lined the walls. Some were smashed. Some were clawed open from the inside. Asterisk. What is all this? She asked. Asterisk. My father, Eli said quietly, used to run the mine here. Years ago, the men dug through a limestone pocket into a cavern they didn't know was hollow. Something was living inside it. Something ancient. Asterisk. That's not possible. Asterisk. I saw it with my own eyes, Eli murmured. My father filled the cavern, sealed the mine, and swore the ridge off limits. But it never died. Just slept. Asterisk. She stepped backward, the truth weaving through her in cold threads. Why didn't you tell the sheriff? Or the town? Asterisk. Because fear turns people foolish. They'd want to fight it, or free it, or claim the ridge as theirs. And if they came up here, he gestured to the broken crates, they'd only wake it faster. Asterisk. She swallowed hard. And I just woke it. He didn't deny it. The ground shook again, louder this time. The sound rising from the pit was clearer, a groaning, scraping wail that vibrated the air. Asterisk. Eli seized her wrist. We need to go. We need to warn. Asterisk. A boulder exploded upward from the pit, showering the ridge with fragments of stone. A massive shadow climbed up behind it, hulking and thick. They couldn't see its face, only the silhouette, tall as a wagon, broad as a barn door, limbs like twisted roots. Marin screamed. Eli shoved her behind him. Run. Asterisk. But the creature didn't come toward them. Instead, it turned toward the open plains, toward Red Creek. Asterisk. Marin stared in horror. The town. Asterisk. No, Eli whispered. It's going for the mines. The old tunnels run straight under Main Street. She felt the world tilt beneath her. We have to warn them. Asterisk. Eli grabbed 2 horses from the shed. They mounted and galloped down the ridge, racing the creature's path beneath the earth. Dust rose behind them in frantic plumes. The ground trembled like a rolling heartbeat. Asterisk. By the time they reached Red Creek, the streets were filling with townsfolk, startled by the shaking. Children cried. Horses panicked. Windows rattled. Asterisk. Sheriff Brandt strode forward. What in God's name? Asterisk. Eli didn't slow. Everyone out of the square. Now, get them to high ground. Asterisk. The sheriff stared at him. Have you lost your mind? Asterisk. Move. Eli roared. but it was too late. The ground beneath the saloon buckled. Then, with a deafening crack, the entire street caved inward. Buildings groaned as support beams snapped. Townspeople screamed and scattered as the earth opened in a massive sinkhole. Asterisk. The creature burst upward. Red Creek fell silent. It towered over them. Skin like cracked stone, eyes glowing dimly with the deep blue fire. It wasn't a beast of flesh. It was part of the land itself, as if the mountain had risen and taken form. Asterisk. People fled. Guns fired uselessly. Dust swirled in choking clouds. Asterisk. Marin stood paralyzed. This is my fault. Asterisk. Eli grabbed her shoulders. No, it was bound to wake eventually. My warning wasn't meant to blame you. It was meant to buy time. Now we face it together. Asterisk. He turned to the townspeople. Get water? Anything that can cool stone. It hates cold. Asterisk. How do you know? Marin asked. Asterisk. Because the cavern where it slept was freezing, he said. My father flooded it with spring water to trap it. Asterisk. Understanding struck her. Then we need more water. Asterisk. He nodded. The water tower. Asterisk. They ran toward the tall wooden structure by the edge of town. Gunshots cracked behind them. Shouts rose like storm winds. The creatures stomped through the streets, each step shaking the earth. Eli climbed the tower ladder. Marin followed, despite her trembling limbs. At the top, he tied the main valve to a rope. When I give the signal, he said, pull this hard. Okay? She stared at the creature below, crushing wagons, tearing through the storefronts. What if it doesn't work? Then Red Creek becomes a memory. Her chest tightened. Eli whistled sharply. The creature turned its burning eyes toward the tower. Then it charged. Ready? He yelled. The monster struck the tower's base. Wood splintered. The structure groaned. Now, Marin. She yanked the rope with all her strength. The valve snapped open. A roaring torrent of icy water cascaded down, drenching the creature from head to toe. It bellowed, not in rage, but in pain. Steam erupted from its stone-like skin. It staggered, clawing at the ground. Again, the tower shook. The creature rose, roaring, preparing to strike again. Keep pouring. Eli shouted over the roar. But the tower couldn't handle the force. The legs buckled. Jump. Eli cried. They leaped from the tower as it crashed to the ground. The impact sending dust into a swirling cloud. The creature stumbled toward them, weakened, steam rising from its cracking body. Marin scrambled backward, hands shaking. Eli. He crawled toward her, grabbed a broken pipe, and jammed it into the remaining valve. A final rush of freezing water blasted forward, engulfing the creature. The roar cut off. The giant froze mid-step. Its body turned gray, then white, then solid as frozen stone. With a thunderous crack, the creature shattered into 1,000 pieces. Silence fell over Red Creek. Only the wind moved, carrying dust and relief through the battered streets. Eli sank to the ground, chest heaving. Marin crawled beside him. Eli, I'm sorry. If I hadn't, he shook his head weakly. You did what everyone eventually does in this town. You went looking for the truth. He gave a bitter, tired smile, and the whole town shook. She rested her forehead against his shoulder. The town gathered around them, shaken but alive. Red Creek would rebuild. The ridge would be marked forever. And Marin Hayes, the woman who did the one thing she'd been warned not to do, would be remembered not as the cause of the destruction, but as the one who helped save the town after waking the sleeping mountain beneath it. The sun broke through the dust clouds then, lighting the ruins in gold. A new day, a changed town, and two unlikely partners, sitting side by side in a place where fear had once ruled, now ready to face whatever came next.